So now you know the basics of comic art, but where do you even buy it? Hey everyone, Steve from Cantu Comics here. Everyone knows where to get comic books, but where can you even buy comic book art? You would think that your local comic book store may have some for sale, or at least display some on their wall, but I don't recall ever seeing any at my stores. Comic art is a pretty niche hobby, so you'll need to dig a little bit deeper. So depending on if you're an in-person buyer or prefer online shopping, let's go over your options. Let's start with in-person options. Attending comic book conventions is hands down the best way to buy comic book art. First of all, you get to purchase the art directly from the artist while getting to know them a little bit. You can typically find a majority of artists in the Artist Alley section, but some of the more established ones will spring for a dedicated booth. The first pieces that I actually bought were in person from John Boy Myers about a decade ago. I remember he had his portfolio book out for his really nice splashes and covers, but then he had this huge stack of panel pages for 20 bucks each. He must have had 100 of those. I was pretty excited going through them and ended up buying a Marvel team up and a Ninja Scroll panel page. When talking to him, he was super chill and cool to talk to. He even threw in a trading card. Also at the larger cons are vendors that deal with specifically original comic art. One of the bigger guys I see there is Anthony's Original Comic Art. I always visit their booth at San Diego Comic-Con and WonderCon as they bring thousands of pages in these huge portfolio binders and tubs. They have a really good selection and can accommodate whatever budget you're working with. When compared to buying directly from the artist, they are pricier for sure. I definitely see other comic art vendors at the cons, but I do not know their names off the top of my head. There are also comic art specific conventions, such as the LA Comic Art Show in Redondo Beach, California. I've been looking forward to attending this one, but I'm not sure if it's even happening this year. I have also heard of the Comic Art Con in New Jersey, but I live on the West Coast, so I've never been there. These conventions are a little more intimate, so you can actually relax compared to a large con where you're constantly on your feet all day, lugging heavy collectibles and art on your back. Aside from buying comic art here, you can also sell some of yours or trade up for some nicer pieces. That's what I would plan to do. Maybe even bring some of my nice slabbed keybooks to trade, unless that's frowned upon. I believe these specialty cons are art only, but what do you guys think? Because I don't want to be that guy. So that covers conventions. But there is one more place for in-person buying of comic art to cover. That would be formal art galleries that feature comic artists and painters. One that comes to mind is the San Diego Comic Art Gallery in San Diego, California. This gallery is owned and operated by IDW Publishing, whose corporate office happens to be right next door, and they have frequent artists like Kevin Eastman dropping by. Sometimes, smaller art galleries will feature local comic artists. I have Gallery Nucleus in Alhambra near me, who regularly feature artists in the comic, video game, and movie industry. If you're ever in the Southern California area, I definitely recommend checking them out. Let's switch over to online shopping, starting with online galleries that represent comic artists. These sites are not resellers, but someone who's actually representing a list or collective of comic artists. They take a small cut of the purchase and give the rest of the money directly to the artist. One that I have used before is called ComicConnart. Well, I actually didn't buy it directly from their website, rather from their eBay store. When some of the art hasn't sold on the main website, I noticed that they would auction off some of it and just, probably clearing some of their inventory. This is how I acquired my Ice Cream Man number 15 cover art by Martin Morazzo. According to the About page of the website, ComicConArt has been around since 2004 and started with 2 artists. Since then, they represent over 50 artists with an outlet to commission pieces from a select list of those. Also interesting is that they can offer a full talent agency service of pencilers, inkers, colorists, and letterers. So if you have an idea for a book, they can be an option to bring it to life. There is also Felix Comic Art, whose website looks identical to ComicArt's. It's safe to say that both of them shop with the same website template company. I'm not sure who came first, but they both host a nice collection of working artists. The interesting aspect of Felix Comic Art is that he has a YouTube channel dedicated to original comic art and features some pretty serious collectors going over their favorite pieces. I guess Cantu Comics has some competition in this YouTube niche. But his last video upload was over a year ago, so I think I should be able to carve out my own share. Moving over to online vendors, first we have Anthony's Original Comic Art, whom I mentioned earlier. According to his website, he has been selling comics, art, and vintage toys since the early 90s, and his website launched in 1997. It sounds like he knows what he's doing and is a trusted vendor. The website also mentions that he became a full-time professional art dealer in 2001. He has thousands of pieces of original artwork for sale, so no matter what your price range is, they have you covered. As a note, they have an eBay store, and I'm not quite sure it's the same pieces as on the site, but I suspect it may be similar to ComicConArt to help unload some of their inventory. There is also Romitaman, who is smaller than Anthony's, but still boasts a pretty large amount of high-quality original art. I have not personally purchased any art from Romitaman, but I have had my eye on some nice X-Men pages in the past. One piece that I admire on his site that I could never afford is the cover to Chamber of Darkness number 7, which is the first Bernie Wrightson cover that he drew for Marvel. It's listed at a hefty $45,000, but I can dream. There are a ton of notable comic art vendors to mention, but it's time to move over to online auction houses. Let's start with eBay. Outside of comics, art, and collectibles, eBay is the go-to global site to buy all of your secondhand goods. I personally use eBay for buying and selling comic books and original art. There's usually a large amount of original art for sale, but you have to be pretty clever with your keywords to filter through all that garbage. A quick tip for quickly looking for the hot comic art auctions is to use original comic art keyword, then narrow your eBay search to auctions only, then sort those with the most bids first. The really good deals will pop up immediately. Then you could just proceed to watch the interesting ones and then intact your winning bid strategy. But please be careful out there. A lot of these sellers and stuff, you gotta look at their ratings and their comments, because there is a chance you can run into a scam. I could go on all day about proper eBay techniques, so if you want me to go into detail, let me know in the comments below. Who knows, it may be an upcoming episode. If you're more of a baller, you may be more comfortable obtaining your pieces with heritage auctions. When you hear these random news stories of people finding an Action Comics number 1 inside like the insulation of their wall, this is where that book goes. Home to where all the 1%ers buy and sell their artifacts and precious collectibles, Heritage is the place to find the rarest and most sought after original comic book art. So for example, if you're looking for a Todd McFarlane 90s Spider-Man cover, this is the place where it'll be. I personally haven't purchased on Heritage auctions, and for some reason my account is blocked. I assume my info and approval is already expired. The really cool thing about Heritage is that you can view really high-res scans of the art, and you can see the price that it's sold for. It's a great place to reference how much certain pieces of art may be worth. As a note though, they charge a 30% buyer's premium, which the buyer pays for, plus the standard 10% consignment fee for credit card fee. If you're selling, you're paying like upwards of 45% after that hammer price. So you should know what you're getting yourself into if you go that route. Another online auction house of note is ComicLink. These guys specialize in investment quality comic books ranging from Golden to Bronze Age, CGC books, and original comic book art. They are also worldwide, so they have a vast collection of books at any one time. If there's a particular blue chip piece of comic art that you're looking for, ComicLink most likely will have it. I haven't used ComicLink before, but I've heard nothing but good things about them. As a buyer, there are no fees, just the winning bid plus shipping. As a seller, you're paying roughly a 15% fee. That's much better than Heritage. ComicConnect is another big auction house that has a nice collection of comic books and art. So it's pretty similar to ComicLink, as ComicConnect has no buyer fee and the seller eats the credit card fees. They have a nice selection of Golden and Silver Age comics along with original comic art. An interesting thing about the bidding here is that it is really similar to a traditional auction house like Heritage, in that when bids are placed within the last few minutes, the bidding is extended another 3 minutes. This is great for sellers, as everyone has a chance to bid up and avoid those snipers like me. If you don't like this method and you prefer the eBay defined time method, ComicLink is the way to go then. Going once, going twice, sold! That is about it for the main ways of how to buy comic art. I do have a quick tip that can quickly search the web for a particular piece of comic art. You can use ComicArtTracker.com's website to quickly search for what you are looking for, and it will scan all the auction houses, vendor websites, eBay listings, and more. It's a great tip to see all the available art for a certain artist or book title. Go ahead and give it a try. Well, it's time for the next installment of Comic Art Spotlight. Today, I would like to go over my panel page of Superman Batman Annual 3, page 14, penciled by Chris Batista and inked by Mick Gray. I purchased this directly from Mick at San Diego Comic-Con many moons ago. I was browsing his panel pages and this one popped out on me, aside from his more expensive splashes. A selling point he brought up was that this was a very early Batman book that brought back the pointy bat ears in 2019. This rendition definitely makes Batman more menacing. In terms of context, in the panel page, it's a nice panel of Superman in the Batcave, a place where he's not that often portrayed in the comics. Supes is actually looking around pretty suspiciously, as he can't let his guard down around Bruce. You never know when he'll just bust out a piece of kryptonite and take him out. I really like Chris's style of drawing the human figure. They have a very strong and chiseled feeling to them. Superman and Batman show a great deal of expression in their faces, something that I always notice in his art. An interesting note of this panel page is that Mick signed it for me, then instructed me to go have Chris Batista sign it as well. I was like, what? I didn't even realize he was a couple tables away. He was literally right there. I had to take a double take. I proceeded to just go over to his table and played out in my head, what exactly am I gonna say? I didn't want to just straight up plop this page on his table and ask him to sign it. So I waited shortly for him to finish talking with the fan, and then I told him that I had just purchased his art for Mick and he encouraged me to have you sign it. As he was autographing it, I mentioned to him that I was a fan of the pointy bat ears. And oh man, he proceeded to give me a 5-minute complete history lesson of the bat ear evolution. In a nutshell, pointy bat ears are the only bat ears. I personally agree, but maybe not as pointy as Kelly Jones's renditions. Oh man, those are ridiculously huge. They would go toe to toe with Loki's horns and probably win in the 12th round. This page right here is the first comic art I purchased with prominent DC characters on it. I have always been more of a Marvel guy, but who doesn't like Batman and Superman? Was there anything that I missed? Don't forget to comment and like this video and hit the subscribe button for more original comic art content. In the meantime, this is Steve from Cantu Comics, signing off.